Hello, everybody who is out there on the stream. Greetings. I am joined here today by three estimable gentlemen. We have Pikmin B, Chocolate Rain 72,
What
and
up?
Purple, who has been kicked out of Tabletop Simulator and will be rejoining shortly, but is with us here in voice at least. Welcome to my humble Twitch stream that gets usually one viewer at a time when I'm not doing villainous stuff. How are y'all doing today?
Great.
Doing
I'm
great.
doing fantastic.
Doing well. Doing well. Thanks for asking.
That's good. That's good. So, I have gathered you all here today because little birdies tell me that you all have a particular predilection for a certain pussycat prince.
We do. His name is
In a
John.
manner of speaking.
Mm. Yes, yes. So Prince John, who I often call Prince Johnald, just to be silly, is probably the simplest to explain, or at least the simplest, like in terms of objective. You just get 20 power, which is that resource for playing cards. No, you don't spend it, you just have it. You just sit on it. This is a damning indictment of capitalism. But before we start getting into specifics, what draws you to Prince John as a villain? Let's go round robin. I see Chocolate Rain at the top here, so we'll start with you.
This is what drew me to him. That's a good question. So I played a lot of Doctor and Mother Gothel in season 1. We're going straight into the why. And and I was losing all the time with Gothel. So I felt like I needed someone else. But I wanted to play someone who not a lot of people played and wasn't considered super high tier and sort of break them down. And to me, I'd seen Pikmin do a lot of good stuff with Prince John, so Pikmin is my inspiration. You're my inspiration. So between seasons 1 and 2, I just labbed the crap out of him. I just every day with Zach and Will Hinson and a bunch of other people, I would just go in and play Prince John. And what I think I really like about him now, and the reason I stuck with him and liked him after choosing him for maybe dubious reasons, is that he's got a variety of play styles, and he doesn't require one thing. We'll get into it a little bit later, but I feel like obviously the most important card, maybe the most important card in his deck is this guy right here. And I have won many a game with never even getting him. Just because you don't need to rely on one thing. You can switch it up. Like Prince John is like a random button based on your deck. You know what I mean? Like what you get is going to dictate a little bit. You should have a strategy going in, but I feel like he is really good at adapting to what you're given and who you're playing, and that's why I like him a lot.
Okay. How about you, Pikmin? So you inspired Chocolate. What inspired you?
Well, I suppose that I'm really happy to hear I inspired such a fantastic Prince John player. And really, but the thing that initially attracted me to Prince John was when this was like way back when the first ever like Villainous tournament was being hosted by Jonesy. And I was trying to like find a character that I could bring into it, and Headmaster Ditto made a comment about Hades, where the reason that he found Hades so difficult is because he struggled to figure out what cards were actually like helping him towards his goal. It was like, I have Get Ready to Rumble and that's it. I don't know what else directly contributes towards my goal. And for me, like it dawned on me, when you're playing Prince John, it is crystal clear what does and does not contribute towards your goal. Because if you don't know what to do, you can just sort of sit back, deduce what's going to get you the most power, and then do that. So that's why I started playing Prince John. The reason I kept playing him is because it worked. And I did pretty well.
And if my history knowledge has served me correctly, I think John is one of the few English kings to have nothing to do with Ireland. Just never tried to do anything?
I think so. Yeah, I feel like I would know that.
Okay. All right. Purple is being meaned at by Dance in the comments. Purple, what do you like about Prince Pussycat here?
So, what drew me to Prince John originally, I'm going way back beyond even the first week of the league, is when I was playing this game casually, just my family during quarantine. Me and my siblings would play like almost every, if not every day. And I started picking up Prince John because I was like, he's so much different than everyone else in that you have to balance more than any other villain what you want to play and what you don't want to play. And I found that just Dance so interesting to me that I stuck with him up until like through the prologue. And then I picked him back up recently because I was like, man, he's such a blast and I'm just better at the game generally. So I decided I want to relearn him. And I think I'm not quite as skilled as the other two on this roundtable, but I think I have enough to give some advice about how to play Prince John.
Okay. So I think this is going to be pretty interesting because not to toot my horn, but I've been playing this game since it released, like originally. So I think I have a decent idea of what to do with Prince John. But I have noticed that how I think Prince John should drive tends to be a little bit different from how you all think he should drive. For instance, I see a lot of discarding warrants. I see a lot of just different plays than what I would expect. So let's first dive into the realm here, like we usually do with these deep dives. This is going to be a little bit shorter. We're not going to be 2 hours, but if we move this big ol' chunky crown here, we have this realm here going from Sherwood Fairtex Church, Nottingham, to the jail. Let's start with our starting location, Sherwood Forest. We got up top, gain a power, discard cards, and at the bottom, play a card and fate. What are your thoughts on this as a location?
It sucks that he starts there and he can't go
Yeah,
there turn one.
I love this
That's the
location.
biggest thing.
I think this is where Pikmin and Purple and myself differ slightly because honestly, this is my third favorite location, and I know it is your second or third, but I know it's your guys' first favorite location. Correct?
I think it's my second favorite.
I'm not too sure, but yeah, it's definitely above Friar Tuck's Church, and everything's above Friar Tuck's Church for me.
So this is where we get into the disagreement. We'll get to
I
that
love
later.
Friar Tuck's Church.
Love the church.
See, I can see. So Friar Tuck's Church, since we're already talking about it, we got gain 2 power, play a card, then play a card, and move an item or ally. It was the first location with 2 play card actions and not gain 3 power. For me, Friar Tuck's Church is awesome if it's not hero covered, and it absolutely sucks if it is.
That is true.
Yes, but I love the. Go ahead, Chocolate.
Go ahead. No, you please.
I love the combo potential it has because if you're pre-playing your allies, which we're gonna get into the cards later, but you have effects and stuff that you can just get back a ton of your stolen money if it's stolen, or make a ton of money really quickly through the combo potential that Prince John has here.
Yes. I think, and we could talk about this fucking guy a little bit later. But one of the reasons this location to me is so important is if he comes out early and this can be opened, you can still make money and try and kill him. If this is closed and he's on the board, you are really in a hard time early game. If he comes out early, you're screwed anyway. But for me, and I agree with Purple, it's actually less about the 2 power for me and more about the double play and the move. You can gain so much out of that stuff when you have the right cards in hand. And it's why, like I said, it depends a lot what's in your hand, because sometimes you just want to go chuck your cards. You get a lot of early imprisons tend to happen, some early set of traps or even intimidation, and you just need to throw stuff away. But later in the game, when you've got multiple cards you want to play and you want to try and find the sheriff, like let's say you have Sir Hiss, a bow and arrow, a golden arrow, and taxes. You don't necessarily want to chuck any of that, right? but so you can play 2 of them, and that for me it's like a way to avoid hand clog that is the most useful. And if this guy comes out in the top 15 of your deck, this spot becomes the best spot in the entire game, more than the jail, because you're actually saving in 2 turns. You're actually making more, if you think about it in a certain respect, than you would here at the jail by putting the crown here, as long as the top is covered. Because you're gaining 2, but you're saving 1 from here, and then you can move it and save a third one, and then come back and move it again, and again, save 2 more. So that's why I think I love the church so much. But I love to hear Pikmin why he doesn't like it, because he's also very good at this character. So
I think it's just down to fundamentals of how we play Prince John. I play Prince John very aggressively, and I get rid of heroes very, very quickly, and I get through my deck very, very quickly. I think I go in with the mindset that things like Golden Arrow, King Richard's Crown, and Sheriff of Nottingham, for me, you have to assume that they're at the bottom of your deck. I don't, I don't go in expecting them to be anywhere near the top. So for me, jail Sherwood, until there's heroes to defeat is what I'm going to do. Once I have heroes to defeat, I'm going to start going to Nottingham, and Fartuck's Church just doesn't fit into that method of play, I suppose, as easily.
that's fair.
But if my hand is really, really good, I might go there. But it's rare. Typically, I try and play fast.
I hear that. And I think a lot also comes down to when you get a warrant, and like what Ware was talking about, if this gets covered. Because if you could throw a warrant down before this gets covered, now you're in a really good place. You can stack your wolves there. You can keep moving around, and if you end up getting the crown, you can use it. If you don't, which like it's on the bottom, which happens a lot too, then you still get the 2 in the double play open to you. But yeah, I think it is true that, like, especially with the way some of the meta comes, this does tend to get blocked first before this, which makes this just a million times more valuable than this, because now once you clear this, they're probably going to block it again. So it's like, if you can get the warrant down there, then it's great. But otherwise, kind of useless. It is. I could see how it's completely useless.
Okay. Let's move on to Nottingham, which we have a Fate and a gain 1 power at the top, and then a Vanquish, his only Vanquish, and a play a card at the bottom. And speaking of covering up, I think playing against Prince John, like to cover this spot up first, but I think that's just because I don't like Fate Deluge, so I try to make sure top Fates are covered.
That's quite common, and for me, this is why I always try and put Sir Hiss there. It's quite rare I'll put Sir Hiss anywhere else other than Nottingham, just because permanently having 2 Fate locations is very, very powerful.
It certainly is.
Yeah, I like Nottingham. I think it's my least favorite location of his 4 locations. I feel similar to it in that I feel similar to the Voodoo Poem. I'm just not making as much progress if I were to go anywhere else. But Sir Hiss here can be a lifesaver, because then you just can't be fate locked.
Yeah, I lost a game recently because I wasn't paying quite close enough attention to where my opponent was, and I had Sir Hiss on the board here to gain 2, and ended up fate locking myself. So, and the next fate would have. So yeah, Sir Hiss got this location is great with Sir Hiss. Without it, trouble in paradise.
Okay, so let's move on to our final location here, the jail, which has nothing on the top row and 3 actions on the bottom row. It was the first location to have 3 actions on the bottom row. We have gain 3 power, play a card, and discard cards. What do you all think of the jail?
If you're trying to play Prince John fast, the way I kind of do, that's going to be the location that you're going to try and go to the most, because you're going to try and get the 3 power as much as you can. And obviously the way I play, I will discard as much as I can. So for me, I try and go to the jail as much as I possibly can. If you're playing against me, keep me away from the jail, you're probably doing very well.
Yeah, likewise. I think the jail should not be away from your character for more than 2 turns. Unless like you're in a really bad spot where you're in that spot where your opponent keeps getting to win con and you got to keep bouncing between the two. That's the only situation I can see not going here at least every
I've been
third
in
turn.
that situation before where it's just I'm playing against Radigan or Facilia or someone else who's fast, and I am just hopping between Sherwood and Nottingham, fading literally every turn, probably with Sir Hiss down. And then once I see an opening and I've laid down my infrastructure, I like hyperdrive from 10 to 20 power and start visiting the jail because I know I can't get caught up to at that point.
Well, that is another very good Prince John strategy, I think, is you can make the slow burn up to 10. And that's what I think makes Prince John scary, is because by the time you usually get to 10, there's probably some heroes on the board. Hopefully you haven't used all your taxes. And you may have at this point caught some of these power gaining cards like the Sheriff or the Golden Arrow. And now it's pretty much you're 5-6 turns away. You know, that's a pretty good strategy, is to lock down your opponent and then blitz at the end. But it can be tough. I've also gotten to those scenarios where I've tried that and then ended up 1 power short, where if I had spent 1 turn not fading, then I could have gotten the 2 or the 3, I would have won. So, you know, it's always a delicate balancing act, I think. Purple?
Yeah, so just the more you go to the jail with actually a quicker, or the quicker your game is. So, like every turn you can be good. If you can afford to go to the jail, you should absolutely do it, just because it's more money. And basically the entire theme here is just maximizing your money.
And we got like a Wolf of Wall Street thing going on.
Yep.
Prince Jordan Belfort is his new name.
Well, all right,
Wolf
we've gone
Archer
over
of
the
Wall Street.
realm. Let's get into some of these cards here. We're talking, do we want to start effects, items, allies, or conditions?
I think my vote's allies.
Allies.
Yeah, I do have, if I can immediately open up, I am of the opinion that Sheriff of Nottingham is the best ally in the game.
I agree.
Flat out.
Can be persuaded.
He's quite good. He's basically like Argus, but better.
Yeah.
So let's bring out our paunchy old wolf sheriff here. Let's take a look. He costs 3 power. He's got 3 strength. Before Prince John moves, you may move Sheriff of Nottingham to any location and gain 1 power if there are any heroes at his new location. So, does that just speak for itself, or is there more to our sheriff here?
I mean, I suppose one thing to keep in mind, maybe we should have talked about the items first, but, I think this is very valuable, because if you have this on him, he is a 4-strength ally that can be literally anywhere whenever you need him. Like, for any location you need, he can zap there.
Bow and arrows, it's a 1 power +1 strength attachable item that, in addition to the +1 strength, is discarded instead of the ally when that ally goes in for a vanquish.
So for me, on top of his ability of just gaining money, the fact that he can be literally anywhere whenever you need him is insane on its own.
And honestly, that's the best part of the sheriff for me, because the sheriff's expensive, meaning that if you only have 1 hero, it's going to take a while to make your money back on the sheriff, but there's the fact that he can kill from anywhere is so useful. Which, when you get into more allies, is another reason why I favor archers.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I mean, he's just you just can't beat that free movement. No place is safe when he gets this, or if you have this in hand.
Weight
can
of
get to
Glory is
later.
mentioning also the golden arrow in addition to those bow and arrows.
Yeah, that makes him really great. If you can get the sheriff early, and this is why so much of Prince John's game can change if he gets the sheriff early. And it's not just that you're making money every turn, which is great, but it's also now you can make sure that these bow and arrows and this golden arrow go on him instead of one of these other chumps.
Mm.
And the golden arrow, for reference, also attached to an ally costs 0 power, and when that ally is used to defeat a hero, gain 2 power.
I think what's also important about the sheriff and the reason he's so valuable is if you actually think about it, there's only 4 cards in Prince John's deck that actually make him money. And one of them, if you're playing against most villains and they know who they're playing against, is probably never going to go off. So it's really down to 3 cards that can make you money. It's Prince John. I mean, it's the sheriff, it's the golden arrow, and it's taxes. And that's it. So, if Robin Hood's on the board and he's covering up this 2 spot, you got 2 things in your deck that are going to make you money because he doesn't even make you money then. So
I didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
But
Warrant also will make you money. I don't know if you mentioned
that's
that.
true.
But it doesn't really serve as a money-making tool, though.
It just,
Yeah.
very rarely is your opponent gonna play right into your warrant.
Well, we'll talk about warrant a little bit.
That's for later.
So sheriff, we've talked about, he can snipe from anywhere. He is a money-making machine if there's more than one hero out. Let's talk about some of the other allies we have here. So we have the Rhino Guards. They're big and beefy. They literally say no additional ability. Anything to say about them?
Rhino Guards to me are just a panic button.
Yep.
Some of your allies you're going to pre-play, like almost all of your other allies you can pre-play with like low to no cost, but the Rhino Guards are almost exclusively used if one of your mortal enemies comes out, which is Richard and Robin Hood.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you just need to kill them as fast as possible, and like you spend the free money, you lose the Rhino Guards. It's unfortunate, but that's basically what they are there for, in my opinion.
Yep. Or Cowardice. Cowardice is the other time.
Cowardice is also great.
But I only pay for 1 against these 2. Ever.
Right.
In very rare circumstances where I'll pay for a Rhino Guard before heroes are out, but that's only if I have the crown at my location. Otherwise, it's not happening.
Okay.
So the consensus is do not play Rhino Guards to kill Skippy. Do not do that.
Do not do it.
Do you even kill Skippy ever?
Oh, Skippy's great to die.
I suppose if he's been stolen at. Let's move along the line here. We got Sir Hiss. So we've had some talk about Sir Hiss at Nottingham, which prevents you from getting a Fate Lock because Sir Hiss, 2 power, 2 strength ally. If Sir Hiss is at Prince John is at Sir Hiss's location, you may perform 1 action that is covered by a hero at that location. Now, Sir Hiss does not let you double up on actions if you vanquish after doing that action. But is there any justification to putting Sir Hiss anywhere else?
Yes.
Not the jail, anyway.
That's when you really need to kill Skippy and he's at the jail.
I have, when this is covered and I'm trying to gain money and there's no one here and no one here, and maybe I've got the crown here and I got nothing else I want to play, I'll come here, I'll drop Sir Hiss, gain the 2, and then move him over. That's why this move is so useful. Or maybe he'll be here at Nottingham and Robin's out and I need to gain some power to play the things I need to kill him. I'll move him over and use the 2.
Oh, gain 1.
Very rarely pre-play him unless I'm in a very specific scenario of anywhere other than Nottingham. Though. I think, I bet, I'm sure Pigman has never, ever had him at Fire Tux.
Sometimes, desperately, maybe, but rarely. I don't know. He pretty much always goes to Nottingham. Sometimes
Yeah.
Sherwood. I don't know. I think for me, even if Fire Tux is covered and you don't have Sir Hiss, and like you're going to Fire Tux spending two to play Hiss to gain the two back and then move him, like you've taken an entire turn just to play Sir Hiss. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The other times I've done it is I've moved Sir Hiss to do a double kill. Prince John can set up really nice double kills. So you can move Sir Hiss, play, set a trap, and then intimidation. Like let's say you have, I don't know, a hero here, but you got to kill Alan and Dale first. So you can set a trap and then use intimidation. But again, it's rare.
I love Stars at Nottingham, obviously. I like him at Shield. Like I could see an argument for Shield Force, and Fire Tuck again is a panic button because, in my opinion, you really want to just have both actions at Fire Tuck. Whereas I don't care a ton about this gain one, or I don't care a ton about this gain one either. I'd rather like the Discard and the Fate are both super important to me, but the gain ones are like fine. Whereas you really want both at the church, so I favor a warrant or just vanquishing a hero there.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. One of our allies went elsewhere.
Yeah, I found them.
Speaking of, let's bring out Nutsy, who is another 2-power, 2-strength ally. All other allies at Nutsy's location get +1 strength.
For me personally, it is best to talk about Wolf Archers here because I mean I think this whole shebang here is infamous.
Yep. This is
It's
what
not
you should
purpose.
be going for. Yeah, this is the whole plan.
So Wolf Archers are a clone of Gwithanes. I kid. So the Wolf Archers, they are another 2-power, 2-strength ally. When performing a vanquish action, Wolf Archers may be used to defeat a hero at their location or at an adjacent location. They fork a bit. And that adjacency is also increased by Mr. Nutsy here.
Yeah, I frequently, I don't know how you guys feel, but I'll very often forget that Wolf Archers are only 2 strength because I'm so used to having Nutsy or a bow and arrow on them, and I'll get to a scenario where I go to vanquish with a Wolf Archer, and I'm like, wait a minute, I actually don't have the power here because I don't have my normal setup. Because that's what these guys are for, They give them a bow and arrow and give them some encouragement.
Yeah. Wolf Archers are just so strong, mostly because of the jail. The fact that heroes are almost never going to be played here unless there's warrants, meaning that if you throw a Wolf Archer at the church, they have strength towards almost any hero who's going to be in play.
Yep. And they only take 1 move to take out the jail.
Yeah.
So very frequently you got 2 Wolf Archers here, and then Robin Hood goes there. It's like, okay, I'll just move one over and boom, bang, bang.
Boom, bang, bang. Okay. Yeah, so very useful, very versatile ally here. Let's talk about our final ally, which is Trigger. It's a 2-power, 4-strength ally. All other allies at Trigger's location get -1 strength.
You're probably going to be combining Trigger with Wolf Archers as well. I think typically I see Trigger used
To take out Robin Hood.
To,
Right,
vanquish Robin Hood and Fire Tuck. Because, I mean, he's combined with Wolf Archers, he's sort of just an improvement over the Rhino Guards because at only 2 power, his ability, again, when combined with the Wolf Archers, isn't that detrimental. So typically I prefer him to a Rhino Guards again with. And the caveat is he is cheaper for a ability that's slightly worse, but that's fine. And
it's rare.
No, go on.
Go
ahead. Also, maybe you could play Trigger to kill Skippy. Maybe.
Yep.
Good. There is also
Trigger also
for the record makes Trigger bigger as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for the record, Trigger plus a bow and arrow is the cheapest way to kill Robin Hood, assuming no cowardice. So that's, or trigger plus a bow and arrow is, if you have trigger plus a bow and arrow in your opening hand, that changes a lot. I think trigger is pretty situational play, but when you get that bow and arrow, if you have that bow and arrow early, I'm not discarding trigger. Like trigger's is a hero ally will frequently discard. But if I have this when I have him, it just makes such a difference in these two, because as we'll talk about later, the whole game is these two. Really?
Pretty much. Yeah. Trigger is just a cheaper panic button in my opinion, because you probably still don't want to pre-play them. But again, like if you always want trigger over the Rhino Guard, because again, you save money, and saving money is the name of the game. So it's just the cheaper way to kill the pesky Robin Hood and King Richard.
Okay. All right.
I want to ask you guys' opinion about this. This is sort of a decision I've made, and I want to hear what Purple and Pikmin think about Wolf Archers. Because Wolf Archers are the only one, and Sir Hiss, I guess, the Wolf Archers are the vanquishing guys I pre-play. And I sort of have made a little rule for myself that I will pre-play up the 2, and then I'll discard the 3rd. That 2 plus one of these guys when it comes up, plus a sheriff and a bow and arrow, is generally enough. The games where I'm playing all 3 Wolf Archers are games where things are going badly, I feel like. Unless I have like a cowardice or a crown. But do you guys pre-play all 3 or?
I think I would probably stop at 2 as well. Like this is up to 4, which is almost enough to kill everything in the Fate deck. You need 1 more to kill the pesky heroes, and the Lady Cluck is kind of an exception. But it's just like, again, you want to be. It's going to keep coming back to you want to be saving money, so you need to find the balance of how much strength you want and how much protection you want versus how much money you want.
I think for me, I would only pre-play 1, depending on when I got them. If I got them before, again, Sheriff of Nottingham, King Richard's Crown, even some bow and arrows, I think I'd be discarding the second one. I would pre-play 1, but I think I would discard the second one and be, hoping to get the trigger, the panic button, or even Nutsy to help them out, or Sheriff of Nottingham, because I think if you have too much strength here, it makes people inclined to just play heroes to the jail, which you do keep your actions, but this is actually a tiny bit frustrating as well when heroes keep going to the jail and all of their allies are here.
I tend to agree with that, and I think I let me be clear. If I have 2 in my opening hand, I'll play 1, discard 1. I sort of mean like over the course of the first few hands. I'll generally play in a game, if things go according to whatever plan I have, 2 of 3 Wolf Archers over the course of a game.
Yeah.
Rarely will I play all 3.
And another important theme I want to highlight here is not just with Prince John, but in this entire game of Disney Villainous, every single situation is relative.
Yep.
I mean, like, it's hard to give blanket advice. Like, you should always only play 2 Wolf Archers, because, like, what if the top of the Fate deck is just dead? Then you might have just burned some money. Or what if Robin Hood comes on immediately? Then you want as much strength as you can.
Yep.
So, like, while we will try our best to give blanket advice, just know that you're going to see situations in your games where you might not want to do exactly what we say.
They say stay water.
You want to know how to break the rules. Okay. So I think we've covered allies enough. So we've already touched on bow and arrows and golden arrow, our 2 attachable items. Unless any of you have anything in particular you want to add to that, I think we can move on to King Richard's Crown.
Yeah.
I suppose only caveat with the golden arrow is to combine it with intimidation, but I guess maybe we can talk about that when we talk about intimidation.
So King Richard's Crown, cost 1 power. If Prince John is at this location, all card costs are reduced by 1 power. This is probably the single best cost reducing card in the game. It applies to all cards and only costs 1 power.
Yep. An early crown makes all the difference in the world, just like an early sheriff does. Like, it's rather fitting that for Prince John, the most important cards in his deck, to me, I think, are the sheriff and the crown. Getting them is another story, but if you do, it changes the entire game.
So to me, the main thing with the crown is where. So I think the two arguments you can make for it are Freitag's Church or the jail. So Freitag's Church, because you do have those 2 play a card actions, but if that gets covered up by a hero, then who the fuck cares? Whereas the jail, the argument there is you're going to be going to the jail a lot, and you probably should be, so you'll get a lot of use out of it. Thoughts on that? Arguments for other locations?
I'll let them go first. Go ahead, Bigman.
If you're having a hard time defeating heroes, you're going to be going to Nottingham as much as you can because of that vanquish action. So if I'm playing against someone who is bombarding me with heroes and I just don't have the allies to keep up, like I'm playing ally after ally, I might end up playing it at Nottingham just because I'll be going to Nottingham as much as I can. But that's if a game's probably not going too great for me if the crown's at Nottingham.
Purple.
I tend to favor the church with my crown play a lot because I tend to go there a lot, especially if I do have the crown. Not only that, but the mobility with the move item ally action lets you maximize the crown as much as possible. Basically, the thing with the key with the crown is you just want to get the most bang for your buck that you can from it. So if you're going to be going to the jail a lot, then absolutely throw it at the jail. But I think Freitag's Church is really what lets you maximize its potential.
Yeah. After a lot of games, whenever I've played it to the jail because I think it makes sense, I have always ended up regretting it. Because it gets stuck there. If it's at the jail, you have no reason to come to the church at all. And then if you're not coming to the church, then you're going to here and here, right? And then you get stuck this gets stuck at the jail. And you are now in a place where you're needing to be fading or vanquishing. And this doesn't help you to that end. And I've just had two or three times I've done it. I've just regretted it every time because it's not, I don't think, optimal, because it doesn't make sense if it's here to come here and move it, pretty much. And then you're not getting it every turn. If it's here and you have this open, and especially if you have a warrant here, you're getting 3 uses out of it. You're getting 4 uses out of it. 5 uses out of it every 3 turns. 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5. And that's 5 power saved over 3 turns, which is the same as this becoming a buffed up jail 2 turns and this becoming the church for power. Like if you just think about it from the pure numbers standpoint, if it's here, you're not moving it. It's just you're getting it once every other turn. That's a total of 4 power. You can think about it as 4 power gained, 3 + 1 saved. Here is the same as 4 power gained, but then you get to move it. So now you're getting 2. So I don't know.
So it kind of sounds like ideally for you have this kind of pattern where you go church, use crown, move it to Sherwood or Nottingham, go there, use crown, go back, move it back, and then may as well go to the jail because you can't move it again. And then you go back to the church, use it, move it.
If you're in a scenario where you're not slammed with heroes, yes. Again, like I said, it's all situational. But I mean, that saves you 5 power over 3 turns, which just you can't do that anywhere else.
Okay. All right. Good card.
Very good.
Warrants. So we've already had a little bit of talk about how. So warrant, it is a 1 cost item. gain 2 power each time a hero is played to this location. So one thing I've noticed is that while at first glance it looks like it is a power gaining tool, it really seems to be more of a hero warding tool. Like it almost turns into like a green fire of sorts for Prince John because your opponents don't want to play heroes there.
Hmm. I think particularly when you combine, like, I mean, provided like Fire Talk is in the Fate discard pile, if your Nottingham looks like this, you have Nottingham for the rest of the game. You have Nottingham just free. No one's bothering with Nottingham, or same if you're trying to focus on Fire Talk's Church, like, you could just do that. Maybe not even the second warrant, but this completely wards off heroes. People just do not bother.
Yeah. I
So-
love the warrants, personally. I think Bill said the crown is the most important card. I think a warrant might be my favorite card because the amount of protection you gain from just one power is so phenomenal to me. Heroes are probably not going to go there unless Robin Hood's on the board or if it's Fire Tuck, which we're going to get into this later. I think Fire Tuck's the third biggest threat in the Fate deck personally. That might be a hot take. I'm not too sure. But just the sheer like amount of protection you get for just one power, or even free if you have the crown, is so good to me.
And yet I keep seeing Prince John players discarding warrants.
So in my opinion, personally, the third warrant is not important because ideally, the way I try to do it the most is Epic Church is the first one, then Sherwood Forest, and then the third one's kind of unnecessary because if you have Surhis here, then that's the ideal for me. Again, this gain 1 isn't super important to me.
I definitely agree with that. I have started discarding warrants more recently because I have found that so many times this guy's going to come out and you're going to lose that power you got just gained. And because Prince John has so many, and we'll get to his Fate deck later, there are so many scenarios where Fire Tuck comes out and it's absolutely the best play. I mean, there's only 3 other better plays generally: King Richard, Robin Hood, maybe May Marian, right? Even that is not a definite. And late game he's useless, but early game, so many times you put a warrant down, and now you're just inviting this to be clogged up, and that's what's kind of dangerous about the warrants. I still think they're very good, and but how many times have I had the crown in hand, or like had stuff I wanted to double play here, or I needed to discard, so I'll put a warrant down because I'm like, oh great, I got a warrant opening hand, and then the first fate is Fire Tuck, and now the worst thing happens where I've invited my opponent to block the stuff I wanted particularly to save. Not saying it's a bad card. It's a great card.
Yeah.
But
it sort of turns from a defense to a bullseye, like Fate here.
Exactly.
Okay. We do have a question in the chat from Not My Dance. Thoughts on playing against Prince John if there is a warrant at the church and you get a hero that isn't Friar Tuck? Do you play it to Friar Tuck's church? Is the 2 power you give Prince John worth covering up those 2 actions there?
It depends on who the hero is and what allies are out. Like if there's no allies and the hero is Lady Cluck, go for it.
Yeah.
But if there's like, if we have this setup of Nutsy and the Wolf Archers and the hero is Alan Adale, probably not.
For me, I would say there are 4 heroes that it makes sense and the rest it doesn't. I would never do it with Toby, Skippy. Believe it or not, I would never do it with King Richard because he's going to die anyway. So you're just going to give free power.
Mm-hmm.
You ideally want to do that with someone who's not going to die, right? And the same goes for Alan Adale. Maid Marian, I think an argument could be made, is very good because now you need to use Imprism to get rid of her. Or, she can bring out Robin Hood into a warrant, which is nice. Robin Hood can go there because he's only going to give you 1. Right? And he blocks the 1 you can get. especially early game. Cluck, she has a very hard time dying, so go for it. And then, of course, the fire is going to take it out.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, I think I would never do it with these 4 for sure.
Okay.
But the other ones, it's a good idea, actually, I think.
Let's start into the effects. So we got 4 effects here. All of them except for Intimidation come in 3 copies. Intimidation only comes in 1 copy. Or Sit Trap, I think, is only 2.
But Trap is 2 copies.
It is only 2. Let's start off with Beautiful Lovely Taxes. It is a 0-cost effect. Gain a power for each hero in your realm. It is identical to Visions. It seems Horned King took a lot of inspiration from the Pretend King. Beautiful Lovely Taxes. Is there anything that needs to be said about it?
I to say about it is play them when you get them. It may seem, tempting to hold it till you get a second hero, but then you're clogging your hand.
Yeah.
The 1 power is good enough. I know some people like to hold it, like maybe I'll get 5, but now you're clogging your hand. You're getting far away from this, and this, right? So just play him when you got him. And even, if he comes out early, you can discard it. Or he comes out early, you can discard it,
And don't be afraid to discard your taxes.
Yeah.
It's sad, it sucks, but you have to do it because you got to find the more important cards.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be back.
They'll be
They're
back.
discarding heavily enough, they'll be back.
Yeah, I've noticed that most Prince John players, competent Prince John players, do tend to discard a lot. I've seen kind of and this probably applies to most villains with new players. I like my cards. I don't want to get rid of my cards. And they just hang on to the same cards the entire game and inevitably lose. But yeah, Prince John goes through his deck. Also because Prince John tends to drop a lot of stuff on the board. So King Richard's Crown's going to be on the board. You get warrants on the board. You're going to have allies on the board. There's not too much that's actually going to get recycled in. So he will get back to this stuff relatively quickly. So let's move on to Imprison. So for me, Imprison is usually just instant discard. Do you guys ever play Imprison?
I will if
sometimes.
I have the crown. Marion or Fire Tuck also is a candidate for that because you don't want your warrants going away more than once.
True.
But other than those 2 heroes, no.
I think that's why Fire Tuck is in the art. It is a 2-power effect. Move a hero to the jail, the spot with no top actions.
Yeah, it's definitely, with the crown, it's got a use. Without the crown, screw that.
It's too
this card, I
expensive.
hate this card. It's always in the opening hand. Have you noticed this card is always in your opening hand? Always.
I've had times where I've had opening hand as just 3 Imprisons.
Yep.
That sounds like fun.
I guess I'm going to the jail and just eating.
I will say I will sometimes pay a full power for it for Maid Marian if Robin's already in the discard.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you would pay maybe 2 for a Wolf Archer to kill her anyway, right?
Right.
And yeah, she's gonna attract steal from the riches. That's fine. She steals from the rich. You wait till you can kill her and get to 20. And that's another. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, if you can get her out of the way, it's not the end. Especially one of the other good things it can do. One of the other times I've used it, and I think this is one of my favorite times I used it. I had the sheriff here. I had Maid Marian here, and Lady Cluck. So I used Imprison. Actually, it wasn't even Maid Marian. It was Skippy. Sorry, Skippy.
Then
so I imprisoned Skippy so that I was getting a power every turn.
That's clever. Clever.
So that's one of the ways it can be good. But again, it's only good in conjunction with this or this.
Mm-hmm. So it's a combo card. It's a combo piece.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Intimidation. The other 2-cost effect. Perform a vanquish action, but do not discard the allies used to defeat the hero.
Absolutely one of my favorite cards. Again,
Love
it's
this
the whole
card.
game. Never mind just Prince John's deck. It's the whole game. I love it. I suppose thematically with the art on it, it's possibly best used with Sheriff, but mainly what I will say is I use Intimidation to hang on to my golden arrow. That's mainly
Or
this is the power combo.
it's also really good just with the regular bow and arrows as well,
Hmm.
because it's basically 2 intimidations then.
Yeah. And again,
Yeah.
like when you're using all of this in combination with Sheriff, this is just, like Sheriff is the money team.
And then
Yeah,
Sheriff
anything that
just-
goes on the board is going to die, and you're going to make money off of it.
Sheriff
Yep.
stays out forever.
I will say, I love Intimidation. Getting Intimidation in one of your first 3 hands is the worst feeling in the world.
Yes,
Because I'm
absolutely.
sorry to say, it has to be discarded.
Hmm.
It just has to be. There's nothing that you need to kill that makes it worth it, unless you already have the crown out. But the only thing you need to kill early is Robin Hood and possibly Richard. And you can't play it with Richard, and it's too expensive to use Robin Hood early game. So it pretty much just has to go straight. In my opinion, you can't clog your hand with this. When you need this, and you need this. More, not need, but there are more important cards in your deck. And it kills me every time, but it has to be done.
Yeah, I can't decide whether I get more sad about early Intimidation or early Revenge for Mother Gothel. And it's like, this
Oh,
card
that's
is so
brutal.
good,
Yeah,
but I
that's
don't have any
brutal.
heroes yet.
Intimidation
talk
is
about-
worse because Gothel has a card to get it back later,
That's
but
true.
Prince John doesn't.
Yep. But that's why, and we can talk about that later. If you're playing in the competitive format, there are almost 0 reasons as Prince John you should be going first. Because this card just needs to be, if you get this card in your opening hand, you need to mulligan the crap out of that.
Mm. Okay. All right. We have one more effect. It's kind of the light version of Intimidation. Instead of getting to keep all your allies, you get to move an ally. We got Set a Trap, Costs of Power. You may move an ally to any location, perform a vanquish action. The movement is optional, the vanquishing is not. Thoughts?
I
think-
will always take an extra vanquish action, especially if you want to go to the jail, and especially if you have King Richard's crown at the jail and you've got a bit too many heroes. I think Set a Trap is incredibly valuable if you're doing, again, like guns blazing aggressive, like I tend to be.
Yeah, that's. I think it definitely has its uses. I am very inclined to discard this card, but I'm also inclined to discard every single card.
Discarding's
but-
good.
This card is it's like halfway a panic button, because if you're getting clogged with heals, then yes, absolutely play it if you can kill something. But like 9 times out of 10, I'm going to favor just a regular vanquish with a bow or just Intimidation.
Yeah.
Gives you more money.
Well, you also kind of have to work with what you're given. You may not have drawn Intimidation. I think I like Set a Trap best at Nottingham, actually, when you've got double heroes. Because then you can set a trap and use the regular vanquish and just get rid of everything.
I think another thing Set a Trap is really good for. Let's say Robin Hood goes, or King Richard goes here. You drop down Trigger, and you kill the crap out of him. And now it's later in the game, and you got Wolf Archers here. And here comes everyone's least favorite fox. I hate this guy so much. Now Set a Trap is incredibly valuable. The movement is valuable. But I guess I agree with Purple, too, that the discard of it's another one. It's like it's even less hand clogging than Intimidation. I don't cry when I discard Set a Trap, but you gotta chuck it early game.
Yeah.
Late game, great. Early game, I feel like Prince John almost more than most villains has a pretty strong 3 phases of his game. Of like early, middle, and late, and like what you should be doing in that time.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about that a little bit. Let's first get through the Fate deck before we get into the heroes. Oh, conditions. So, before we talk about the most infamous card in Prince John's deck, let's talk about Cowardice. It is a condition. During the turn of another player has 3 or more allies in their realm, you may play Cowardice. Play an ally from your hand for free. So we already talked about this a little bit in the context of Rhino Guards, Trigger, and Wolf Archers. I like it as well, pulling out Sheriff of Nottingham. Really, Cowardice is pretty sweet.
Yeah, so I would describe my relationship with Cowardice as love-hate, because it's so good when it goes off, but it clogs your hand so much because you need to hold Cowardice and an ally, which is 2 spots of your hand. If the matchup is favorable for it, I will hold on to it, but otherwise I probably have to discard it, which makes me sad, but I have to. But it's also like, I think it's way better than its other condition, personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say there is. Go ahead, Pigman.
I was just going to throw in that you have to, be careful about who you're actually playing against when you're keeping Cowardice in mind. If you're playing against Ursula, Cruella de Vil, just obviously throw away Cowardice immediately. Yeah. It's just something to keep in mind.
Jafar, interestingly enough, you know who Cowardice is pretty good against, which you may not expect, and that's Jafar.
Well, Jafar, when Dance plays him and puts out Razul and all his other allies.
Well, no, because Jafar will at some point
the heroes, the hypnotized heroes. Yeah.
Yes. And so that's people will often think, well, he's not going to play any allies, and your opponent will often. Sorry, Dance, to remind you of this, just like trigger, some flashbacks. But your opponent will often hypnotize a hero, not thinking about Cowardice. Like hypnotize the Sultan or something, and then boom, there's a Cowardice. But there is no worse feeling in the world than having a Cowardice in your hand for 2 turns and no allies, and that happens.
Yes.
And then the third ally your opponent has gets used in a vanquish, and now it's useless.
Okay, I'll say the worst feeling, having been labbing with the Horned King a little bit. I keep bringing up the Horned King, but is when you've got only moments away from victory and you're just drawing for that Ancient Soldiers, and the turn before you draw the Ancient Soldiers is when they play the items. Like, no.
Oh. Yeah, that hurts.
Or like the turn after you discard, and it's like, God damn it. All right, let's talk about this other condition. Greed. During their turn, if another player has 6 or more power, you may play Greed, gain 3 power.
We'll never play it ever.
No, you will not.
It does depend on the villain you're playing against, because some villains can't really avoid it. Like Jafar, as was already brought up, needs a certain amount of power to hypnotize the genie, especially if you throw wishes on the genie.
Yep.
Yeah, there's like...
Go ahead, no, please.
There's like 2 scenarios and 2 very specific matchups in which I'll hold on to Greed, and that is, like we mentioned, Jafar with the genie having at least 1 wish, or if I'm playing against Pete, I'm much more inclined to hold on to Greed because it's most likely going to go off at some point.
Yeah, power
not guaranteed,
play.
But most likely to.
Yep.
But other than that, it's just a discard.
Yeah, it's a discard. But I will say, if you're playing against someone like maybe Queen of Hearts or Evil Queen, holding on to that second Greed for a couple turns isn't bad. And it's not even that you're going to get it to go off. It's that you're stopping your opponent from gaining power when they might otherwise want to.
Kind of like the deal
I think
with
Greed can be
Gaston's Beautiful as Me. Like, I might have the other one.
A little bit like that. You're fearing your opponent. I also will say, go ahead.
In context of a Prince John mirror match, Greed just breaks. It completely breaks and stops working and just does not work the way it's supposed to. So just to keep that in mind too.
Just
I have very
each
strong
other.
thoughts about when to play Greed in a Prince John mirror match, but that's for a whole different stream.
Well, because your Greed is going to proc their Greed once it gets back to your turn.
Yes. So for me, well, if you're playing a Prince John mirror match, hold on to your Greeds. Hold on to them and drop them at the end. That's very specific advice. I will also say, Greed is. I'm a pretty lax player. If people make a mistake, I meant to do this. I'm usually like, yeah, go ahead. No, I don't care. Greed is the one time I care. If they say I'm going to gain 3, play 3, I said, oh, you said gain 3. Like, I'm sorry. You got to train yourself for that. It's the one time, like, because it's so hard to proc. If you know,
And also, it's almost
if
like
you're
the
gonna play,
existence of greed makes Ursula and Hades harder to play because everyone's so trained on, oh, I can't have more than 5 power that then they don't trigger ruthless or trickery.
yes,
I think almost both of Prince John's conditions are kind of similar, or like fall into the same boat in that greed is phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal if it happens, but it will almost never happen. Cowardice is slightly more lax in that it will sometimes happen, and it's great if it does. Honestly, better than greed if it happens, but it's just so hard to make it happen sometimes.
Yeah.
So never hold on to these like religiously. You have to. You can't get attached to them. You gotta fill them at some point.
All right. I think we've had a hard limit of 7:30, so let's barrel through this fate deck here. I think we can spend the most time on our 2 non-heroes here. We've got Clever Disguise and Steal from the Rich. Let's start with Steal from the Rich. It's an effect. Take up to 4 power from Prince John and put it on any one hero. When that hero is defeated, the power is returned to Prince John. So this is kind of the iconic part of Prince John's fate deck. Either on the receiving end or on the giving end. Thoughts on this card?
I will say that both of these cards together dictate my entire play strategy around dealing with the fate deck for Prince John, which is for me personally, I will vanquish as much as I possibly can so that these 2 cards can't be played. And if these 2 cards can't be played, Prince John can't be slowed down, which is why I vanquish so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, agreed.
The other card here, Clever Disguise item. When Clever Disguise is played, attached to a hero, that hero cannot be defeated. At any time, Prince John may pay 2 power to discard Clever Disguise. Go ahead, Chocolate.
I will say, if you're learning the game and you come into the scenario where you have a hero on the board, as long as it's not Toby and it's these 2, you're probably better off, unless you need to steal the win, to use this one. It goes against what you think, but it's permanent and will hurt Prince John much more throughout the game. That card, nightmares. Okay. Nightmares about stacked Clever Disguises on Robin Hood.
Any thoughts from Purple on these 2 cards?
So I think and this is kind of just reiterating what Pikmin said, but if you're playing as Prince John, these cards are dead when they come up. So you can avoid having heroes up there, like we said, try and kill as much as possible, or try and set up to kill. If a nasty Steal from the Rich comes out and takes away all your money, then in much better shape than otherwise. And the Clever Disguise is also phenomenal because it's like the only thing that makes Prince John actively lose power, because Steal from the Rich is going to come back. There's a very niche scenario in which Robin Hood with Steal from the Rich can delete some power, but other than that, it's almost always coming back to Prince John.
Yeah. Okay, so let's rapid fire go through our heroes here. Friar Tuck, we already talked about a bit. He kills warrants. Little John, we have not touched on yet. Let's just briefly go through. When Friar Tuck, through strength, when Friar Tuck is played, you may discard all warrants from his location. Prince John does not get any power from them. We already talked about how Friar Tuck is a bit of a, son of a... Little John here. One of the 3 5-strength heroes in Prince John's deck. The other John, when he is played, may take up to 4 power from Prince John and put it on himself. When Little John is defeated, the power is returned. So he is basically the hero plus Steal from the Rich, which makes him the best reactive card in Prince John's fate deck.
I will say Little John, while he is annoying, may be my favorite fate card that people like to play. I shouldn't be telling people this. But when he is played over one of these guys who is causing you more trouble, all he is doing is giving you power to gain exactly at the moment you need to gain it. And he is not coming back later on a reshuffle. This, outside of a dead fate draw, is my favorite thing to see in the entire when I'm playing as Prince John. These guys come out together, even if there's a hero on board. It is the greatest thing to see. It makes me very happy as a Prince John player.
Well, I do think
Please play Little John.
with Little John, definitely probably don't play him over, say, Robin Hood or King Richard, but he's the only thing that blank board Prince John is at 20 power, the only thing that can like get you that one more turn that you might possibly need. He's the only thing that can no, you don't have 20 power anymore.
Right. But that's why him coming out at any point before that is a beautiful thing to see.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Purple or Pikmin disagree vehemently with me, but
I think he's the most important hero in the very end of the game, but other than that, he's just another hero for taxes.
Yep.
He'll take your money briefly, but like we said, the money almost always comes back to Prince John. So you keep him around to the end of the game where you kill him, and then like we said, once you're at 20 with no heroes on the board, he's the only hero that matters. If he's in the discard, then there's nothing they can do.
Okay. Let's go on to, let's discuss these two, the couple as a couple. So we got Maid Marian as a 3-strength hero. When Maid Marian's defeated, find Robin Hood and play him to the same location. And then Robin Hood is a 5-strength hero. The amount of power that Prince John gains from each card or action is reduced by 1 power. Discuss.
So I'm just gonna say when I leveled up my Prince John play was when I realized that he has to die as soon as possible. I don't care if you have a golden arrow in hand. I don't care if you have a better way to kill him. He has to die as soon as possible because of this. Because I have been in a scenario where it's this, then 3 of these in a row. So he has to die the second you can. Don't wait an extra turn.
I almost want to talk about these two in tandem, because these are the 2 heroes that you want to kill as soon as physically possible.
Yes.
So
you want to spend as much money as you need to.
Just briefly, King Richard is a 5-strength hero. Prince John cannot play effect, so he's a bigger, beefier version of Hanwyn.
And it seems like that's not a bad thing. That's another thing, yeah. Like, it seems like, oh, that's not too bad. And then it starts to stack up, and you realize how terrible that is the more you play Prince John.
You can't play your taxes. You can't intimidate. You can't set traps.
Yeah. So it may seem like, oh, I don't have any effects in my hand. I don't need to kill him right away. Well, you will have effects in your hand that you will need to play, and now you're screwed.
Mm-hmm. So these two, you want to murder them. Toot sweet.
Enemy number 1 and 2.
Maid Marian, probably the best target for Imprison, because you don't want Robin Hood coming back out. Although I have seen the one niche play where there is 1 or more warrants here, and Maid Marian's here. You kill Maid Marian, bring out Robin Hood, and get some power.
I have won a game off of that play. Twice.
I think I've seen you win the game off of that play.
Yep. That's a very nice play.
All right, we got 6 minutes left. Lady Cluck. She's big. She's brutal. She has 6 power. She cannot be played or moved to the jail.
She just sucks. She just sucks. She's just gonna block your actions, and you're just gonna live with that for a while, for a long time, unless you get a cowardice, pretty much. I don't know. I mean, I'll try and kill her if I can, but it's not gonna happen a lot. Even Pikmin, what do you think as someone who kills wantonly?
She is more of a problem for my playstyle than others. Typically, I will leave her there. If there's a good chance of a clever disguise coming out, I'll kill her a bit quicker. But if there's 2 clever disguises already gone and she's out relatively early, like, it's not going to matter if Steal from the Rich goes on her, really, Because again, planning to kill her anyway. So I don't know. It sucks, but I tend to bite the bullet as soon as I can.
Yeah. She has to die at some point, but it's just a lot freaking harder.
So I guess this is actually, I realized I said sudden death round, but clever disguise on a hero. Do you immediately pay the 2 power, or do you wait until you're actually ready to vanquish?
Never immediate. I mean, I think that's a pretty situational thing for me. Robin Hood, you got to do it immediately because he's just got to die, and you never know if a Steal from the Rich comes out. I have had turns when I forgot, where I was like, I'll wait until, and then this happens, and your 2 power is gone, and now, what are you gonna do? But it depends on who the clever disguise goes on and how soon you're about to kill them.
If
it's him-
if the fate deck is about to be reshuffled and there's a couple of clever disguises, you can put them back in the fate deck to reduce the chances of something like if you're worried about Little John or Robin Hood or something coming out again.
Yeah.
But again,
Also a good point.
situational, very situational, but it's a thing you can do.
All right, we got 3 small heroes. We got
I have a-
Alanadale, 2
I have a
strength.
question about one of these guys, if you don't mind me asking
Go
the
ahead.
table.
Let me just read through what they do real quick. We got Alanadale's 2 strength. All other heroes in Prince John's realm do +1 strength. He's identical to Princess Eilonwy. Toby, when Toby's defeated, shuffle him back into Prince John's fate deck. 2 strength rather than Gurgi's 1 strength, and Gurgi has to be specifically vanquished and not just defeated. Skippy, this is unique to Prince John. His 2 strength cannot be used. Wolf Archers cannot be used to defeat Skippy. What was your question?
Does anybody have any idea why Toby exists?
I ask that whenever I see Toby. Like, I can understand Gurgi because, like, it's a way for Horned King to keep his fate deck from pulling out the power of friendship. I don't understand why Toby is in Prince John's fate deck. I do not.
I honestly think it's there to help Prince John. I legitimately think it's there to help Prince John and add another hero that can be stolen from the rich. But because Prince John fate deck can be quite brutal if everything goes in a certain, it's not like Hades level, but man, oh man, can it hurt. And I think Toby is there as sort of like a salve.
Honestly, I think
there's
it
no
might be
greater
the
feeling than
opposite.
killing
I
Toby.
think the idea is Toby shuffles himself back in so you can always have a target for Steal from the Rich, but the fact that he's shuffled back in and not like replayed or something is kind of moot. Because, I mean, like, there's very little instances where you'd play him instead of something else in the first place.
Yeah. He has to be forced. That's why killing him is fantastic. I love killing this guy. So nice.
Honestly, I would have rather, playing against Prince John, I would rather have had, like, another Little John style than what we got.
Yeah. Or maybe that's the point. Maybe that's why he exists.
Maybe. Okay. Purple, any thoughts on these 3 cards?
Honestly, they're just tax money in my eyes. Like, Alan kind of annoying, but the rest of them, like, you have to kill as Prince John, but like, Beautiful Lady Taxes is just so good against these guys because they're not high strength, meaning I can afford a turn to tax and then go kill.
Yep.
But like, that's honestly their purpose. It's just tax money.
Yep. I will say don't underestimate the power of Alanadale in a mid-game scenario, because he can make these really tough to deal with. And this plus these 3 is like a nightmare scenario because you can't kill him first.
Scenario.
You can't kill him first, but now they're both 6.
Yes, don't underestimate 7 power Lady Cluck.
Yeah. Like, look at that. But the one thing about that is you can kill Alan first. You don't have to kill Cluck first, but you can't kill Alan before these guys, pretty much.
And once all of those are out, it's just Steal from the Rich, Clever Disguise City.
Yeah. Which is why they all have to die as soon as possible.
All right.
And I guess it's like a general theme of Prince John. We have a couple of general themes of Prince John. One of them is don't be afraid to play your allies. Don't be afraid to kill. The allies are expensive, but you have so many tools to saving them that, like, you need to vanquish. You need to try and minimize the amount of heals. Because like we said, there's only one card that can stop you if your board's empty when you're at your win condition. So killing things is great.
Lovely.
Okay. We have hit 7:30. Let's just go through and have closing thoughts on Prince Jonald here. We will again. Let's start with chocolate. No, let's go reverse order. Purple. What are
Yeah.
your closing thoughts on Prince John?
So, like I said, I think just a few common themes. You got to be able to kill. You got to try and save as much money as possible. And overall, just like make sure you know it applies to any villain. Make sure you know what's in your fate deck. Make sure you know what's in your deck. And he can become the most inevitable, maybe aside from Gothel, the most inevitable character in the game. So, yeah, closing thoughts.
Okay. Pikmin.
For me, it's clever disguise and steal from the rich dictate how I play the game. If they can't be played, you can't be slowed down. So kill everything. And the best way to be killing everything is to be using the golden arrow while you're doing it. And golden arrow, sheriff, use things like intimidation and bow and arrows to protect them. You will be killing everything and making money while you do it. And if you can keep on top of your fate deck, you will be absolutely unstoppable doing that.
Oh, I get that's perfect timing. I just got disconnected from the server. Chocolate. I want to wrap this up with a little bow for us.
I will say the key to Prince John, as in many characters in the game, but especially with Prince John, is stay water. I used to have a pretty set strategy for disconnect for how I played Prince John, and then I got hit with First Fate Robin Hood 5 turns in a row, 5 games in a row. 5 games in a row I had First Fate Robin Hood, and it changed entirely how I played. And you just have to be willing to play with what the cards are giving you and not hold out for specific ways to play. I don't mean I'm not saying that Pikmin's advice is bad. I'm not saying like don't kill everything. I'm just saying like killing everything is a great strategy. I'm saying let the cards help you figure out in which way you want to kill everything. You know what I mean? And don't rely on one scenario, because more than anything else, Robin Hood can really screw your day up so bad. He really can. He's such a jerk. I hate him so much.
All right.
I think that goes back to what Purple said, is that, like, you know, there is no blanket advice for this game. That, like, this is a game where you shuffle your deck and you get the hand you're dealt and you work with that.
Everything is situational. Everything's relative.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
And
Well,
Prince John,
you.
you know, he is relative. He's king.
He does eventually become a king after the events of the movie. But thank you so much, Chocolate, Pikmin, and Purple, for coming on my stream and talking about Prince John. Love this game. Not sure what I'm going to do next week. I might try to drum up another deep dive for Tuesday. For the rest of this week, I am not going to be doing any other streaming. I'm not going to do any Let's Plays on Wednesday or Friday. I have other things going on this week, but I should be back with that next week. We'll play a bit more Jedi Fallen Order. But thank you all for coming out. It is lovely to have you all. Yeah, thanks you for all. It's so much fun. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I think we might be hearing a little bit of something about League Season 4 maybe sometime soon. Ooh, so be on the lookout for that. But have a pleasant evening. Stay wicked, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.